Hey everybody, and welcome to Dominion Cards, the video series where we take a strategic, in-depth look at various cards from the board game Dominion. Today we are looking at Bazaar. This is a 5-cost action card from Seaside, and it says +1 card, +2 actions, +1 coin. So this is clearly just Village, the card Village, with a coin attached, and it costs 5 instead of 3. Now if you want to know about villages in general, what time to add them to your deck, and all the general theory around that, highly recommend you watch the Village video. This is going to be assuming all of that and just focusing more on the specifics of Bazaar. So Bazaar's pretty good village overall. The fact that it gives you an extra coin might mean that you don't need to spend as much time trying to gain payload and you need less of it. That could also mean that you don't have as many stop card payloads like treasures in your deck when it comes time to start greening, which makes things a little bit more reliable. Now, it does cost 5, and 5's pretty expensive. There's a big jump between cards that cost 4 and cards that cost 5, and 5 does have a lot of competition with really good cards. However, the fact that Bazaar gives you a coin means that it's actually easier to hit that price point again in the future. So Bazaar sort of, to some extent, although they're more expensive, they do help you buy more Bazaars as well. Now, let's say there are other cheaper villages available in the kingdom. When would you go for Bazaar or versus other villages, or the other way around? So one of the key things with Bazaar is the fact that it costs 5 means it's a lot less accessible to gain it. So most gainers, we think of cards like Workshop, they're only able to gain cards that cost 4 or less. And what that means is that if you had like regular village in a kingdom and also a workshop, you might buy the workshop to start gaining villages. And at that point, you already have like a bunch of other villages. Similarly, when you have access to extra plus buys, you may find that you would rather buy multiple copies of cheaper villages rather than a single Bazaar. And the reason for this is that the village effect is the best part of Bazaar, not the fact that it gives you a coin. Usually, when you are buying Bazaar, it's because you want a village rather than because you want what we call a cantrip coin, the +1 card, +1 action, +1 coin part. As we discussed in the market video, you can pay 5 for a cantrip coin, but you're generally paying a little bit over the odds for that. Now, obviously, you're not just getting that, you're getting a village effect as well. But if you don't want the village effect and you're happy for the extra actions to go to waste, then, sometimes you will happily pay 5 for that, but bear in mind that that is a little bit expensive. If you just wanted to make a deck where you trashed down with Chapel and then just bought Bazaar over and over until you had like 8 of them and hit 8 consistently every turn, well, that's actually no good, right? That's way too slow. That's sort of the big problem, and Market would have like the same issue with that. In addition to this, you may find that you've already purchased other villages on turns where you failed to reach 5. So 5, because it has a lot of competition and there's a lot of other things that you want, you may find that it's better to pick up regular villages when you don't hit 5, so that when you do hit 5, you can buy those other better cards instead. Like, especially because it's a lot harder to find 5 gainers. What you find is that those buys sort of become more at a premium. You really need to make the most out of your buy phase and buying the expensive cards, right? If your only opportunity to gain expensive cards is to buy them, then you really need to make sure that you're getting the most out of your buys. And it might be that a village, even though it's giving you a coin, isn't really good enough for that if there is other ways to obtain villages that are not giving you money. So these concepts generally mean that Bazaar feels to me like it's a little bit better when you have limited access to additional buys and gains. And that's because in this sort of situation, it's more justifiable to pay a premium for a more expensive card. Like, say you just generated 6 money and you have 1 buy. Well, if you really need a village and you're going to buy one, why wouldn't you just pick up the more expensive, better village, right? Bazaar is... If cost is no factor, then Bazaar is clearly just a straight upgrade from a regular village, right? And when the cost is less relevant, of course you'd pick up Bazaar. Now, the fact that you might need to spend less time gaining payload is also very relevant in this case, because if you're only able to add like 1 card per turn to your deck, and you can spend 1 less turn, like buying a silver or a gold, because you've already got extra money that you need from Bazaar, then that might be what wins you the game, right? You can start buying provinces earlier, and then you're in the lead in points, which is always a strong position to be in. Put your opponent on the back foot. So Bazaar tends to feel to me like it's better in those cases. And so that's it for Bazaar. Generally, with cards that just give you extra money, they're a standard card. Like, how do you talk about the value of extra money in general? It's not always that easy. So that's kind of all I have to say about Bazaar. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head over to the online client and generate some kingdoms with Bazaar in it, and we will see what impact it has. So here we have Ambassador and Steward and Sentry for a lot of trashing. We have a Festival Library deck after that. So Ambassador, Steward's really strong. We're clearly going to go with Ambassador first. I'm going to open... Do I go Ambassador Caravan or do I just want Ambassador Silver? I would really like to have something like a Bazaar or a Festival as soon as I can. I think Silver's going to be better long-term than Caravan, and that's because I think I'm going to be going Festival Library rather than something like Bazaar Patrol. I just think that's going to be better here. It's easier to use like Vassal because the Festival, you just get a lot of money faster. You know, we want the plus buy. Festival's the only way to get by. It just works better with Vassal. You can still use Bazaar in this deck when you run out of Festivals. So it's okay here, but I think Festival is going to be much better for us. We get super thin real fast. It's better with Vassal to have the spare actions. So we just want to load up with Festivals. And like I say, we can get Bazaar, but we're probably just going to slam Festivals Vassals for a while when like the Festivals run out. So here it's fine, but just so happens that there is a particular combination that makes for a better village for us. So Bazaar loses to an even better village in this particular case because Festival really likes Library and Vassal. Those together is real good. What do we have here? There is no trashing at all, and there is Sea Hag. So Sea Hag's going to be real good. And Patrol looks real nice because it can pull curses into our hand to try and clean our deck. I would like to have a Bazaar Patrol draw engine, but of course the problem is that we've got a load of cursing going on with Sea Hag. So I'm going to open Sea Hag. What do I do after that? So there's a workshop, but I really don't want Shantytown in this kingdom, I don't think. I'm wondering if this is going to be a lot closer and better if it's some sort of big money thing. Is Courtyard big money good enough in the onslaught of a Sea Hag? I feel like the engine might be too difficult to build here. There's a lot of 5-cost cards and we're getting slammed with curses and we can't trash, so we have a lot of junk. I do like Patrol. I think Patrol, big money with Sea Hag, might actually be good here. Does Duchy Duke work in the face of this? We might be that we actually resort to Duchy Duke because it's quite hard and slow to buy a load of provinces. So I think it's Sea Hag, and we get Patrols, and then we move to Duchy Duke. And that's how the kingdom is going to go. And I just don't think a village is very good in that sort of kingdom. Like, we have so much junk to run through, like building the engine takes too long. It's too difficult. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to open Sea Hag, and we're going to open Silver, and we're going to look to buy some Patrols. I'd probably only keep one Sea Hag. And I looked at Navigator, like a Duchy Duke slog with Navigator. This is like the only time Navigator is actually any good. But I think I would rather have Patrol than a Navigator because I want to clean up my next deck out of all of the junk to try and make it easier to like hit 5. So poor Navigator. I think Patrol's better than it. So yeah, so I think Bazaar is ignored here because there's no engine to build. There are just better things to buy on 5. But we don't want villages in general there. What's happening here? We have Sentry to trash. We have Bandit and Cut Purse as attacks, but there is also Lighthouse if we need to defend against it, which we might as well. So I'm going to open Cut Purse and probably just Lighthouse anyway. I think Smugglers might be better, actually. I don't really care for Lighthouse. Yes, there's Cut Purse. Do we want Cut Purse Smugglers, or do I just go Silver Smugglers? I would really like to stop my opponent hitting 5, so I'm probably going to open Cut Purse and Smugglers anyway. Do I just stop myself hitting 5? I think that's fine, though. The thing is that what's the draw here? Well, there's only Diplomat. We can get thin with Sentry. Diplomat is not going to be super good as draw. It's a reasonable reaction to... how do we get our hand size low? I guess the problem... I guess we don't really. The villages are drawing villages. There is Caravan as draw as well, but the draw's pretty limited here. As a result, I kind of really like Bazaar because it's a lot better where there's less draw. The only plus buy is Pawn. We might not bother with plus buy because draw is so difficult. And maybe we start getting a Bandit and we just have a load of golds. And so we have Bazaars and Diplomats trying to draw a bunch of golds. And we hit 8 and we start provincing. And maybe after we get thin, like we get 2 sentries, we transition into that pretty quickly. Smugglers seems good for gaining... You can gain extra golds with it as well. Once your opponent stops buying things. But I kind of like Smugglers to try and get in on the Bandits, Bazaars and Sentries a little bit earlier. And eventually it becomes just another gold gainer, which is fine. I don't see the value in building an engine that tries to use plus buy with Pawn because you really need quite a lot of draw to make use of that, I think. So... And the gaining here is pretty limited otherwise, except for golds. So I prefer to just have an engine. So Bazaar is fine here. I actually don't think I ever need to buy regular village. I would much rather just have Bazaar. Early on, I would rather be using silvers instead of gaining villages. And then eventually I will start. Or I have like a Diplomat. Maybe, but I don't think I'm actually touching regular village because villages are not super important here, but Bazaar with the extra coin feels okay. Maybe it's overkill. Maybe just get thin and you throw in a lot of golds. Maybe Lighthouse is pretty pointless because the draw's so tight. But yeah, Bazaar is okay in that kingdom. Here we have Steward to get thin. We have... Steward also has draw. It is the only draw. We have... So like Cut Purse is not good here because we have Steward. We have Throne Room and Bazaar and Mining Village as villages. What do? We get thin and then we collide treasure maps. And then draw is tight. How much... So what's the value in building more? So there's no plus buy. So I think after we smash together 2 treasure maps, we don't care anymore. So we get thin. We get treasure maps. What else do we even do? Do we care? Not really. Some golds and a Steward is fine for a deck. If we're only buying 1 province per turn, we just do that. A mill would be nice if there's a tiebreaker here to gain at some point when we get a 4, if we get one. But I'm going to open Steward and probably Silver, I guess. Yeah. I'm happy to have some Silvers in this deck. It's just going to have a bunch of golds as well. So I open Steward and Silver and we thin down and I just try and buy some treasure maps when I can. And then, like, before I just get thin, or maybe when I do get completely thin, the Steward of the Silver will help me hit 4. We smash the treasure maps together, and we just jump straight for province. And I don't think we bother doing anything else. There's just a load of villages here, and there's just the lack of draws real bad. There's no payoff for drawing more because there's no plus buy. And the only gainers gain gold, so there's nothing to do. I don't think it's worth trying to build... Oh, you can't build to double province, sorry, there's no plus buy, like I said. Yeah, so you just want to try and get to 8 as consistently as you can, and that happens pretty fast once you smash the treasure maps together. And here comes the last kingdom, so we have Steward and Sentry and Upgrade to Trash. We have Fishing Village and Bazaar. as villages. Draw is a bit more awkward. So we've got library and we've got minion. Fishing village, minion, and bazaar seems fine. I think I prefer that to library. So what's the aim here? So with fishing village, it's not too hard to... Well, do you need to militia in the face of minion? Probably not. I don't think militia really matters here. It might matter early on to try and hit 5. However, having said that, I want to be playing steward more. I don't think I care in the face of... getting militiaed early on when I'm trashing with steward, right? If I get militiaed on a steward turn, well, so what, right? I just leave steward and the 2 cards and I buy nothing. There's also wishing well for draw. Upgrade doesn't seem very good here in the presence of no gainers. So this is another kingdom where there is no buy. I do want to attack my opponent every turn, either with minion or militia. So I think I'm just going to do a minion deck. I don't think library is very good. So I want to get thin. So we're going to open steward. And what are we going to open alongside it? Bearing in mind we don't really care for militia early on. Is it going to be fishing village steward? Is it going to be warehouse steward? Is it going to be wishing well steward? Silver. I think I kind of like fishing village over silver. I just do fishing village steward. And I want to buy some fishing villages. They work fine in a minion deck. So do bazaars, honestly, but minion is a bigger priority. So here, the only time we really use bazaar is as a cantrip coin if we need it. But if we get enough minions, we probably don't. And the fact that we can have a few fishing villages is fine, honestly. Like, it's not quite a cantrip coin, but like fishing village is okay. Having said that, like, we don't actually need the village effect here. But, you know what, having some stewards in your deck with minion fishing village is okay. Maybe we do get a militia eventually, because why not just attack our opponent 1 extra time, right? Like, it doesn't matter. If we have fishing villages, it doesn't matter when we draw terminals with minion, because we have all of the actions available at the start of our turn. So Bazaar here is only really going to be gained in the event that we need more money, and we have 5 and all the minions are gone, so I can see Bazaar never being bought in this kingdom. So that is it for Bazaar. As you can see, when villages are bad, it's bad. Otherwise, it's fine. But sometimes there are stronger villages, like Fishing Village and Festivals sometimes work out better as far as villages that also give you money. So, yeah, it's mainly it's just a village. What more is there to say? It gives you a bit of money. Right, well, anyway, thank you for watching. I hope that was useful for you, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.